have you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're excited to sit and talk about your journey as a filmmaker, as a woman in this business, and just sort of introducing you to the NFT community.
Yeah.
Uh, Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm still learning my way around all of this type of stuff, so it's very exciting for me to actually, I'm all the practical stuff. This is all the fancy stuff. I need to learn some of the fancy stuff.
Yeah, well, it's all very new, so we're still learning as well. But yeah.
I have a 2 week head start on you. That's how far I go.
It's
Um,
light years ahead of me.
well,
Yeah.
how just you guys? I guess the best way to start is, Bill. What's the objective of this conversation? Like, why are we hosting this AMA?
Yeah,
Why
so
am I
the
here?
idea the idea behind the Fireside Chats is that we want to give our members like exclusive access to industry professionals that they normally wouldn't be able to talk to, ask questions to, hear stories from. So basically, we want to just talk with Molly about your career, how you got started, how you got into it, like what drives you to do movies, why you picked horror, and then we're going to open up to the audience for people that either want to produce their own movies or they're trying to figure out what's the best way to get started in moving to Hollywood, do any of that stuff, or yeah, just any questions about your actual films if they're fans of the films and have questions about the movies. But yeah, we just want to basically connect our members to industry professionals. So that's the idea. So I couldn't think of anyone better to do our first one with than you, Molly.
Yeah, Molly, you're up first. How exciting!
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
so professional. This
It
is
is all
great.
downhill from here.
Yeah,
How
I
did you
know.
guys
Setting
meet?
the bar.
How did you guys find each other in this great wide world?
Yeah, that crazy. It was through like some. Actually, that's the thing is like they always say, oh, connections, meet people, talk to people. You got to be social in this industry, and that's exactly what happened. Like the
Mhm.
long sort of version of the story was I was leaving lunch and I was going to color correct a movie that I directed called Semblance. And as I was crossing the street, I ran into a friend of mine, David Server, and he honked at me and waved. And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to color correct a horror movie that I just did." He's like, "Oh, is it for Fun Size?" I'm like, "I have no idea what that is." The light turned green and he started to drive off. He's like, "I'll do an email. I'll introduce you." Blah blah. blah. And he drove off. And then I get an email. He introduced me to Zeke and Molly and Mikey, who run Fun Size Horror. They were like, "Oh, I heard you want to
Mhm.
do a movie for next year," and I was like, "Oh no, I just finished a movie. I don't know." So then they're like, "Well, we have our slate full, but send the link over." I sent the link over. They loved the film and then put it immediately into Fun Size Volume 2. And yeah, it had been a while where me and Molly were just emailing her and we're like, "Hey, we haven't actually met. Let's go grab coffee." So we went to Larchmont, met up, and then have been really close friends ever since.
Yeah,
Nice.
Yeah.
that's exactly true. Yeah, it's just the story of almost every project that I've done has been somebody that you just enjoy spending time with and want to work with and think are talented, and then you just decide, well, let's keep doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny that I think a lot of times people looking at the industry or trying to get in are trying to do things perfectly, right? They're trying to make their perfect first film, their perfect first script. And my
Hmm.
whole thing is like, I think you just have to go. And you're going to make
Hmm.
mistakes along the way and you're going to learn as you go. And you have no idea where the connections are going to take you. Like, you just don't
Yeah.
know the person you're talking to now, where they end up and how that sort of relationship evolves and can open doors in time.
Yeah, and I've never met.
Without having, yeah.
I've never met two people who have the same story of breaking into the industry. Everyone's always like looking for this magic formula, like, oh, I need an agent or a manager. I got to meet this person and get this person like my card or my reel. But nobody I've ever talked to has had the exact same path. It's always, it's unique to each person.
Well, Molly, how did you
Hmm.
break in? Like, what was your sort of first foray into this industry?
Am I in? Is this exact? I mean, the only thing, the
You
only
are
thing that I can
definitely
say
in.
is that the second that you climb one mountain, you just realize that there's another. And so there's like all these little moments that you have that you're like, okay, is this what I wanted? Is this, am I there now? Am I there now? And you just keep going. But I think it's funny because most people, there's a lot of, well, nobody, if anybody knows who I am or anything like that, assume that because I have a bunch of family members in the industry that I got into the industry through that. But I actually avoided it like the plague because of that. And I always wanted to be a writer. I studied literature. And I was actually a professional horseback rider, believe it or not, back in the day.
Wow.
And my first job, I was training Missy Stabile, who was a huge producer over at Universal, and she said to me, "You should be a producer." And I was like, "Why would I want to do that?" And so she actually gave me my first job. I was her PA, and then she made me a production assistant on The Ring 2, which is actually where I got to see Rick Baker. I got to meet Arya and Tutin, who actually ended up working with me later on and doing special effects for me. And then I got hooked. I mean, the whole idea of being on set, working with a team, making something happen. I loved being a PA. Oddly enough, I love that team energy. And so I started there, and then I made the very stupid decision of deciding that I really wanted to be an actor. Sorry, Matt. It's great for some people. Just like
it's a horrible decision. It's a horrible decision. It's horrible.
Hard life.
It's so brutal.
I did that for 5 years. I studied Meisner. I did 2 years of that training, all the rest of it, which I'm very grateful for it. I'll get to that later, but I studied that and I started trying to go out, and I was going out on auditions and doing that whole game and getting some roles and little things and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I just can't stand. Am I allowed to swear on this, by the way?
You can fucking say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And I was doing all this fucking shit, just trying to get my career going. And I was like, I just didn't want to wait anymore. So I wrote a film. I gathered $30K and I made my first feature. And that was 12 years ago. And it's not a great movie. But it was good enough to do the festivals. And that's actually when I met Mike Flanagan, and he had made his first film, Absentia. And so I had Do Not Disturb. He had Absentia at a film festival, and we started working together. And then I worked on Before I Wake with him. There's actually another film called Scaredares that we almost made. And I can tell you several stories about how something can be a guarantee and then not happen. And then while I was working with him, I met Karen Gillan. Karen and I became really fast friends. She really wanted to direct. She sent me a project, and I was like, have you ever directed before? No. I made 2 shorts with her. We ended up making her first feature. And then,
Wow.
and then you just kind of get on a roll and you keep going from there.
So
and then
you
recently
did become a producer. So you did. So
I
you
did.
So,
She
yeah.
was
So
right.
you've done all of them. I mean, do you like
Yeah, and
directing
now I've
better
gone
than
back-
producing? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and then I went back to writing and directing over the past couple of years, and I think, well, all of this to say, like, all of those experiences just make you into a filmmaker. Like, the reason why acting was such a gift is because now when I'm on set, I have such an empathy for the experience of actors that I tend to be able to work with them in a way that I think other people don't, because I can kind of speak that language, because I have the experience of actually working as a writer for 6 years. I understand the struggles that writers are going through to turn in drafts. All of it adds up to me being a producer. And then ultimately, me going back into directing was me being like, I love this and I love production. I love helping other people's voices, but I do have some things I want to say. And so then I kind of very in my own way, and haven't announced. This is like actually literally the first time I've even said that I directed a feature publicly. So you hear it first, people.
Nice.
This is where news is breaking.
I feel like we need a drum roll.
Yeah, seriously. But I love it. What you were saying, Matt, is which one do I like better? I love storytelling. And I think I also do, as Bill knows, I do immersive shows. I've run some ARGs. I've worked with other teams. I just love telling stories that nobody else wants to tell if they're being told for the right reasons. So that's kind of my whole thing is, why is nobody saying this? These are the people to say it. I'll help them say it. And sometimes that person is me. And then it's
Right.
fun to do that as well.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I don't know if that's kind of a overall. Also, I actually think directing is a million times easier than producing, because directing, you just have to have a vision and know what you want. And then producing, you have to make that person's dream happen. So I have to say that I'm very grateful for my producers when I'm directing, because like sometimes I'll see something happen, like something won't be working. And I'm like, normally I would have to go solve that. But instead I'm going to go talk to the actors about their feelings. And I love that. That's a fantastic place to be.
Somebody else pick up the mess. I'm going to go deal with actors.
Yeah, I love it. Love acting.
That's funny.
Emotion.
Let me ask you a question. So you went to university and you got a degree in writing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever feel like, I feel like sometimes for me, like I didn't go to college, and I've always sort of had this feeling of I'm not smart enough to do it. Like I'm not qualified. Like I always felt like for a long time, not always, but for a long time I always felt like, oh, I can't direct, I'm not smart enough. Oh, I can't produce because I don't know. I'm not part of the club. I'm gonna make mistakes. Can you just talk a little a bit about like how you I don't know if did you ever experience that? And if you did, like how did you overcome this idea like I have a writing degree. I don't belong here. Like I guess it's imposter syndrome in a way, you know?
It is imposter. I think imposter syndrome is really difficult, and yeah, I know like mainstream people who say that they still don't know why anybody's listening to them. I and what you're talking about is so hard. But no, I never really had that. To be honest, I don't think that my writing degree did anything for me either. Nobody has ever given me a job. In fact, it was very funny because I was just talking to somebody recently who is writing the first screenplay, and they're like, well, because you just wrote a screenplay and then you wrote and you went and directed it. And I was like, I wrote that screenplay 8 years ago was the first draft. That was my 6th screenplay that I took out. And I was a professional writer for 6 years with a writing degree, and they had no idea. And honestly, nobody cares. Like that's not the reason why. Karen Gillan, I'll just use her as an example because she's an actor who has since turned into a writer and director. She is just unabashed in her ability to like have a story that she wants to tell and tell it. I think too many people get in their own way of, am I the right person to say it? How do I say it? All the rest of these things. If you have something that is incredibly personal and incredibly meaningful, I think write it. There's not, and especially right now, all the innovative, especially independent films that we're seeing are ones that are led by people who actually have something to say, who have a personal experience, who's relevant to them. Also, I will take a script with typos that is innovative and new and original any day over a perfectly like structured script that means nothing. Like that, I just want something that actually means something to somebody.
Absolutely. And Matt, don't ever feel bad about not going to college. Like I think
Sure.
last year is when I first saw my diploma. Like it got lost in the mail somewhere. My parents had it, and no one's ever asked me, "Hey, so where's your degree from?" before you get this job. So yeah. Don't worry.
No, I totally get that, but it's a sense of I'm not good enough. Listen, this it's your insecurity is a funny thing, and like my own insecurity is about, oh my god, I didn't go to college, so therefore it's not about the degree as much as like this sense of feeling that I am just not smart enough. And look, I directed a film. I finally did it. I finally went out and directed a film. I've been teaching acting for a long time now. Like I eventually, in my age and wisdom, was like, oh, it doesn't matter. But I suspect that some people out there may go, well, I don't have an access to this industry. I've never written anything. Maybe it doesn't qualify me to do it. And my whole thing is, I totally agree with you. Now more than ever, your point of view is the most important thing. It's not about the structure, the 3-act structure. It's not about can you sell it or will people like it. My whole thing is if you have a story and you have to tell it, then you that's what makes you exceptional. It's the same thing with actors. Like actors that walk in and own their own energy and know how they create and their take on the character, whether if a director likes it or not, that who cares? They're bringing something and that's themselves into the room. And I think that that's the only thing that makes you exceptional is you. So we're saying the same thing, I guess.
We are, and it's funny. Recently, I was on a call with another writer that was in the room, and there was a bunch of executives, a bunch of people, and we started talking about a project. And I was like, well, I'm just at a really insecure place in my career right now. And he's like, you should never say that to anybody. And I was like, oh no, God. I'm going to say that. Because I am, and you know what? I'm not afraid of it. It's cool if you're unafraid of these moments of complete insecurity. Oh my God, you get to discover so many interesting things about yourself and about your craft. Yeah. That is like, it's kind of like oddly this weird gift, and it's like I'm insecure right now because I'm doing something that I've never done before, and I'm putting myself out there, and I don't know what's going to happen. That's just that is a part of it. I don't think I know an artist when it comes time to release their work or to share their work that has actually put themselves on the line and actually given something that doesn't feel that way.
Yes,
that feeling,
totally.
That feeling makes you're at home with many of us when you have those feelings. So if anybody's thinking like it's scary, it is scary. And you know what? It's also really fun to be scared, which should tell you why I love making horror films.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
so let's talk about that actually. Do you have another question, Matt?
No, just go. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
have at it.
Yeah, so of all the different types of movies you could have gotten into, what drew you to horror? I mean, I know that's a question that you're frequently asked, and you probably have a good stock answer for it. But yeah, everyone wants to know why horror of all things.
Everyone wants to know. The people want to know. I'm trying to figure that out myself. I honestly, I do have a stock answer, but I've been realizing lately that I've been trying to figure that out as I've been writing my next projects. The thing about horror uh, is that it is a community. It is not just about the stories that you're telling, but the community that's around it wants to support you in taking those risks and taking leaps and not always being perfect, but being willing to go there. Where when you're making a drama, the expectation is like you better win yourself an Oscar, or you might, there's just so much more. And it's not saying that horror doesn't have craft and skill and all the rest of it, because it absolutely does, but it rewards the stories that are willing to take those risks and are willing to say the things that people haven't really said before, haven't said in that way. And that's the thing that excites me. And that's the thing, it is the most curious genre that wants to discover new talents, new voices, new stories, I think more than any other genre out there. And the people making it, everybody that I know, all the writers and directors are all insecure, scared, worried. They don't know. And so you get to bond with one another and you get to be there for one another. I mean, the special effects people that are like, that I've worked with that are blowing up heads and cutting off limbs are some of the like sweetest, kindest people that actually really care about anatomy and human bodies and all the rest of this type of stuff. And I love that. I love that it's all the people that I'm already inclined towards the weird and odd and different. And it's wonderful to meet people who are like, oh, you're weird and odd and different. Cool. Tell me more. And I've just found that it is not only a genre that supports that in the output, but also a genre that supports that in the making of. And so once I found horror and I found my community, I honestly, there's nowhere else that I want it to be, because it's just such a loving, oddly place to be.
It is. I do think that when you make things for people that are traditionally outside of society looking in, like they're drawn to it, and you're building something that people don't usually build things for. So I look, and I think you can see that reflected in the Midnight Movie Club community. I think that you've got a bunch of people that are drawn to each other. And look,
Mm-hmm.
it's been a big 10 days so far, but the community is really thriving. And I think that there's that spirit of, oh, we found each other. I did a movie called SLC Punk, and if you find a punk rock kid that found that movie at a time when they needed that movie, it's amazing the power of that film. And I just think that again, going back to individual voices and individual stories that need to be told, like Stephen Yoon's movie last year was like, oh, here's this incredible
Mm-hmm.
movie about a family told from an Asian point of view, and it was found profound sort of traction in the world because he was telling that story. And I think that's super powerful.
I completely agree, and it's funny. I have two things to say to that. Sundance is going on right now, and it's virtual, so you can buy tickets. And I actually watched After Yang, and what a beautiful story! Oh my, I'm still like wrecked by it. It was fantastic. And also SLC Punk was totally one of those films that spoke to me so much.
Oh, nice.
I do have to go back. And Scream is literally one of the films that made me want to make horror films. And I go back and I watch that about every 2 or 3 years, because I just don't know that there's a better crafted horror film out there that understands the sincerity and earnest nature of a good scare, but also the ability to have fun and is not just trying to be clever, but actually is like, it's just so smart and so well made. And just to fangirl out for a second.
Thanks.
Just
Well,
big
we
fan here.
watched it last week as a community for the first time, and I haven't seen it in 5 years. And it was the first time in my life. I probably have only seen the movie like 4 times in 25 years. I mean, once, maybe twice when
Mm-hmm.
it came out, and then randomly sitting in on some drunk screening at some point when I was, like 30, and then watched it, this is like the fifth time. And every time I go back and watch it, look, when you're making the movie and you're making something like that, you have no expectation of it finding the traction that movie's found. But in going back and watching it now and watching it for the first time since Wes, oh, that's not true. The second time since Wes had passed, I was just struck by how funny the movie is and how charming the movie is. Like I think that
Yep.
there's something about you. It scares the crap out of you. There is like 1/10 of the blood that's in the new one, and it still scares
Mhm.
the crap out of you. And it's funny and it's charming. And I just think that I don't know. It speaks to him as a filmmaker, and it was really
Yeah.
lovely. Um,
Yeah. He was. I got to meet him, and what a. That's the other thing. You meet most of these horror film directors. You know, I'm friends with Mike Flanagan. They're the nicest people that you're gonna meet. It's
yeah,
I think there is something to exercising your demons and getting them out means that you don't necessarily live with them every day. Something like that.
yeah.
It's funny
Very
when I meet a
true.
lot of people in comedy, there's a lot more angst with people who are having to do like comedy all the time. I think that's much harder.
Yeah, well, comedy. I think comedy's learned out of pain and suffering.
Yeah.
Like you develop comedy because your life is brutal in some way, so you either get
Yeah.
funny or get beat up. So
Yeah. It's a coping mechanism. Yeah.
for
You go through
sure.
that trial by fire.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
one last thing about Wes is that he was an ornithologist, so his favorite thing to do would be to go into the woods and watch birds. And I was like, that's so weird. Look at the things you make, and you're at peace in this quiet of the forest and watching these beautiful birds. And that was his hobby. So,
I love that.
um,
That's
I
amazing.
listen. I think. Sorry, I just I have to ask what it's like to be a woman in this industry. What's that like coming up as a person of power, as a producer, as a person with legacy? Like, you know, and you walk into a room, there's like a status behind that. Like, can you just talk a little about your experience in this town and being a woman?
You know, I don't know what it's like not to be a woman, so I can't compare it to anything.
Fair enough.
Um, but let's see. I mean, the thing, I
I
don't
mean, is
know.
there
I mean,
anything to talk? I mean, I just is it like? Do you feel like it's twice as hard? Do you feel like there's elements that are easier? I just like, what's your
well,
perspective on it? I mean, there's this whole movement now to be more
mhm,
inclusive of everyone in this industry.
yeah.
Um, that has to be coming out of a reason because it's so male dominated for so long.
It is, and especially the horror genre has been entirely male dominated for a very long time. And the idea of the scream queen and the idea of all of these tropes that have kind of come out of this, where horror is it's a double edged sword, right? It's both one of the most innovative, creative spaces in which you've seen some of the most like forward thinking material, and also where you've seen the most women in see through shirts run through sprinklers for no reason. So there's a balance here, right? um, so you know it is something that is not is not on the forefront of my mind a lot of the time because what's on the forefront of my mind is how do we tell new and innovative stories. But when
Right.
I'm looking at films, when I'm going to film festivals, when I'm watching the stuff getting made, the number of female filmmakers and female directors is still so much lower than male directors. And when you look at the stories that you're starting to see seep through, I just saw the law. Is it the Lost Daughter? Oh, Maggie Gyllenhaal's film. Am I getting the name
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
The Lost Daughter. Yeah. I mean, I was I just on the floor, just like so grateful for that film because I'm like, this is. I know it's not a horror film, but it's just like female perspective, female written, female directed. This is what female led. Like all like it spoke to me on a level that most films don't. And I think the thing is what I'm looking for is there's so many voices that we haven't heard, so many perspectives on the same story that we haven't heard. And I just want to champion those. And it's still hard because we can get into the whole how do you sell a movie? How do you find a marketplace? You're still trying to sell international. International, which is suffering right now, still wants, Jason Statham in every single film. And if you don't have that, how do you make your money and all the rest of it? So it's a challenge because it's not seen as marketable yet. And the pressure, this is one thing that I will say that I reject, even though it is a reality. So, take it as you will, is that when you are a female directing a film or leading a film is that you feel the pressure that you have to succeed because if you don't succeed, you are failing for others. And that's a really hard pressure that is kind of all encompassing and I think stops a lot of women from taking that first step and from taking, directing their first film, writing their thing, or taking the lead. And all I can say is that I've never felt like I'm very good at anything that I do. But when I look at other people, I'm like, well, I'm better than that person. And I have more to say than that person. And I understand structure. And I'm like, there is a spot for you. And even if you don't feel like you're good enough or ready or something, taking that plunge, knowing your weaknesses, supporting your weaknesses, and then being able to say, I think I can do this. I'm going to give it a go. If I fail, that's okay. Many people have failed doing this type of stuff. I'm not going to crush an industry by doing that. I think is incredibly important. And you are right, because I mean, look, almost everything that I'm going to announce that I'm doing over the next year or 2 years is female written, female directed, and it's all about topics that when I read them, I was like, I have never seen this before. This speaks to me, and I'm so excited to get behind it. And I think right now we're seeing that more and more. That also being said, I do have a couple of token male directors that I work with, and the thing that I love about them is like I'm not against working with male directors. When I produce for a male director, I just say, tell me something that I don't understand about being a man. Tell me what it's like to be a feminist as a male. Tell me what it's like to get beaten up. I thought Riley Stern's film, The Art of Self-Defense, was so beautiful because I was like, oh, I didn't get that perspective before. Oh, I didn't understand that. Like, just I think the most innovative thing is not being anything other than who you are and expressing that in a way that hasn't been expressed before. And that's the most important thing. I don't know that I have a legacy. Do I have a legacy? Am I?
Well, I mean, you walk in with a history, with a family history, like that sort of. There's like a strength in that. That's. I mean, I'm particularly interested because both of my kids are actors, so I'm like, well, what is that like? Like, how do you sort of walk in?
Yeah.
Walk in. That's. I mean, literally, my middle child is coming home and is going to audition for Hamlet. Like, she has to audition for Hamlet on Zoom, and so like by 4 o'clock, I
Oh,
have to be off.
Zoom.
So she's gonna be doing like Hamlet speech,
Hamlet on Zoom.
on
Oh, that
Zoom, and
sounds.
I'm like,
I feel so bad
yeah,
for her. Hamlet on Zoom.
yeah.
I had a chip on my shoulder about it for a really long time, and I actually wouldn't tell people my name, or I would avoid it or anything. And now when I released my first film, I remember one of the reviews was, she couldn't have been related to Danny Elfman. She must be a sperm donation because she has no talent. And
Oh God.
I will never forget that reviewer. And at first, of course, because I'm 24 or 25 at the time, I sobbed, right? Because I was like, oh no, I'm no talent. And now all I do is go, you fucking asshole. Like, I want to go find that person and be like, you can critique my work. Art is subjective. I completely agree with that. But there are people who love to go after the filmmaker. And now me being me, who's a little bit older, I'm like, oh, give them to me. Like, just let me get my hands on them, because it's such a different perspective. But honestly, if I would have gone into music, I think it would have been different. I think that's more of a parallel. I think I went into something kind of adjacent because, me being me, I'm also stubborn as fuck. And so I refused to play music as a child, and refused to do any of that type of stuff in like a defiant act of willfulness. But I'm also, the other thing, when I look at my dad, like, not only do I think he's very talented and he's done well, people will say, but like, he has the career that I would have wanted. Like, he has gotten to work with the type of directors I would have wanted to work with. I love what he's doing now because he's he can still work on a Sam Raimi or a Tim Burton film, but he's also producing his own albums. He's doing his own concertos, and he's still an artist who is discovering and finding himself. For me, seeing that just inspires me as just a human being. But I do know him, he is my dad, but like, he keeps going, he keeps changing. And recently I got I'm not gonna say what it was, but I got rejected, and I was really upset, and I was really bummed out. And then all of a sudden I realized I haven't done anything the way I was supposed to. Nothing that I thought would work ever did, but I kept going and I kept finding ways. And I said that to my dad, and he goes, that's exactly how I would describe my career. Like, he wanted to be a director, by the way. Like, he had a whole different trajectory, and he just did music on the side, and then that took over. So the only, like, if anybody even wants any of my advice, is like, if you make a plan and then just know it's not going to be that plan. And isn't that fucking great?
Yeah. Well, just personally, real quick, the first concert I ever saw was Oingo Boingo at Irvine Meadows. And after Serial Mom, I was with John Waters and ran into your dad. And Serial Mom was the first movie I ever did, and I said to him, I was like, your concert was the first concert I ever went to. He was the lead singer of a band called Oingo Boingo, if you guys don't know, and he was so generous and sweet. And I always bring this up. I think that when somebody sees you and has the ability to make you feel special, like somebody that you admire, it's like it can have a profound effect on people. And that's one of the first experiences in this industry where somebody saw my performance at Serial Mom and was so generous with their compliment that I'll never forget it.
Aw.
Yeah,
I'm sure he meant it.
I know. Well,
He's a very bad liar. I'll tell you that much. You always know when he's lying. He is the worst liar I've ever seen in the world. But I do think that we are all artists, and especially with your kids going into people may give them that horrible insult. But honestly, it is something that you're like, oh yeah, what you think does not define me. This person is not a fan of mine. They don't like my work. That's fine. People are going to not like me. They're not going to respect me. And then other people will. And I'm going to keep finding my path and finding my route. And I'm just going to keep going. And I also think just with, I have trouble reading reviews, and I have trouble kind of with some of those elements of things. I really like to do the work. And I know that some people, especially when you're doing controversial material, some people are going to like it, some people aren't. And that's great, because that's what artwork is all about, is starting that conversation. And so I just think that you just have to follow the path that you think is right. So if that's acting, that's acting. It's just, if it's music, if it's directing, and then also, as you've done yourself, you've directed, you've done other things. It's like things lead you down different paths, and you just kind of follow that and do what's right for you.
There's something in meditation called following your charm, and this idea of just follow your instinct and what gives you joy. And I think it leads to good things.
Yeah. And then you're also happy while you're doing
sorry,
it.
go ahead.
Oh,
sorry, yeah.
Sorry. I was just going to say, as Bill and Matt, as you all know, it's it's very hard. We work long days. We work hard hours. We work ourselves to the bone. It's important that you love what you do. So also, anybody who's a filmmaker and isn't this is making me so happy, choose anything else, because you'll be happier.
That's true.
Bill, do you remember your bad reviews? Do you remember do you put any stock in them, or what's your vibe?
Yeah, I do. I remember because the first feature I did, me and my friends just shot this this movie in college over the course of 2 summers. I thought the movie was done after the first summer because nobody was showing up to set. All my friends were bailing. And then during that time we cut a little trailer, and then eventually everyone was like, we got to finish this movie. And somehow, this was when Netflix first came out. It wound up on Netflix back when it was still just sending DVDs out. So everyone was going nuts for that. And then of course back then Netflix had reviews. I'm trying to remember if I can remember them, but I remember one of them was something and I remember because I went and commented on it, because they're like, this movie's terrible. It feels like a student film. And then I wrote back, I'm like, yeah, it is a student film. I'm in college right now, kind of thing. And I'm like, yeah, it is terrible. This was probably
asshat.
I think they wrote this was the worst movie I ever saw, and I wrote this is the worst movie I ever directed. Underneath it, because I was just I'm getting started. I'm just figuring it all out. No, I thought they were hilarious and motivating, because it's I'm just gonna prove all these people wrong. But yeah, it is one of those things where it does hurt, but at the same time you're kind of hey, at least they watched it. Someone actually saw it and was moved enough, whether good or bad, to come write about the movie and express their feelings. But yeah, and then obviously there's been a bunch of good reviews too, so those got to outweigh it. But you got to do the whole don't read the comments kind of policy with a lot of this stuff, and just put the stuff out there and let people absorb it and react to it however whatever their reaction is gonna be.
I don't remember a single good review, but the worst review I got 2 bad reviews that I can remember. The first one was Matthew Lillard is like Jim Carrey on crack. Was the first one, and then
is that
the
a bad review? I think
that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Because I used to have this thing where I would just every single scene I would chew the scenery in every single scene before I learned that there's a time and a place to chew scenery. But the other one was it was Summer Catch is so bad. It was a movie called Summer Catch with Jessica Biel and Freddie Prinze Jr. One of the best times I've ever had shooting. As it said, Summer Catch is so bad it will turn you off of baseball, summer, and even love itself. Avoid it. It is It is nuclear waste rolling on the back railroads of America. It was like, oh my God. It was like this little sweet, innocent, summer love story about baseball and love. And it was like,
Oh
oh,
man,
yeah.
that's
Hey, we
crazy.
should open it up for questions. Molly, are you
Yeah,
cool
let's
with
do it.
taking questions from people if anyone has
Yeah.
any questions? Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, people
Awesome.
hop on up, raise your hands, and we'll call you up. And
Yeah, and
while we,
if there's a lot of people that may not know about our community. Do you just want to jump in real quick, Bill, and just do a quick 2-second explanation of who we are, what we're doing, as we're waiting for somebody to raise a hand?
yeah, absolutely. So the Midnite Movie Club, we're an NFT project. We're going to be the first decentralized movie studio. So the goal of the community is to make films and let the audience participate in that. So members of our community will be able to vote on various aspects of our filmmaking process. On top of that, we're going to have night school where we can do things like these fireside chats and different tutorials and have resources like template schedule budgets, stuff like that for future filmmakers. And we just want to support filmmaking in general and help people kind of get started or have access to things that they normally wouldn't have access to.
Yeah, when the NFT mints, that money goes back into the community wallet to make films. So
Yeah.
nobody's here making a gazillion dollars.
Yeah, I see
It's
George.
so cool.
Yeah, George
It's
is
a
coming
great
up on
idea. It's Bill's idea, and it adds utility to NFTs, and it's really exciting. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a
That's
lot of fun.
insane.
it's really
Yeah.
I
cool.
love this.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like we
Bill,
just say
explain it more to me later.
I will. We just say it's like Kickstarter on steroids is the easiest way to kind of explain it. So, George, I invited you up. I see you requesting to speak, so hop on up here when you can.
You have
Maybe
to
you
press
walked
the
away.
accept button if you're like
There
me.
you go.
Yeah.
Yep, there it is. Hi.
Hey,
Hello.
how are you?
Hi, George.
Good. How you guys doing?
Supersonic.
Great.
It's good to meet you,
Yeah.
Mally.
It's
So I actually
Molly, by
worked
the
in.
way.
Oh, Marley, sorry.
No worries.
So I've got maybe one or two questions. One of them is on like a really tough set day. How do you keep going? Like if there's frustrations, if you're tired, you're just anxieties off the roof. How do you like relax yourself and like keep going?
Why are you stressed, George?
Uh, I just occasionally have a bit of anxiety and,
Yeah.
want to figure out ways of dealing with that.
Yeah. And is that something that is brought on by set, or is that something that like you're just dealing with in general? Sorry. You also don't have to answer me. You're getting producer Molly right now.
No, it's sort of like things I inherently feel.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know how to explain it. Um,
Yeah.
Do you only ever feel
I
it when
think
you're on set, though, or do you feel it all the time? Is it a thing that you carry over to personal life, or is it just like when you're working?
uh, it's a little bit in personal life. It's like, I guess I'm in the process of trying to figure out how to quiet those like thoughts and like focus on the work and getting the film done and that sort of thing.
oh yeah. All the noise. I mean, for me, there's very simple things. Making a plan makes me feel safe. For instance, I love that a plan is going to go awry, and you know that there's going to be things that change. But all the people who work with me will laugh when I say this because they'll know I love a calendar. For me, I have so many Excel sheets. I am a very anxious person, but I don't have a lot of anxiety on set. And I think the reason is because it tends to, you kind of have to let yourself go and just flow with it a little bit, and trust that the people around you are also going to be with you. So, if there's different types of anxieties that come with making a film. There's do you have the right team, the right equipment, the right things, and by the time that you're on set, those choices have kind of been made, and so it's time to work with what you have. And so it becomes, instead of thinking about what do I not have or what isn't here, think about what can I do. And I think a lot of where I get that from is, as Bill mentioned earlier, I worked for a company, Fun Size Horror, and I made myself over 40 short films. And I really think short films are a blessing, because when you make all these short films, you get to practice that anxiety, and you get to practice that pressure, and you get to practice going through that without having the pressure of a feature film or a TV series or something like that. So I found those to be an amazing exercise for me. And by the time you make 40 short films, you kind of can do anything, or is what you feel like. But it is also a matter of practice, and it is a matter of just getting comfortable on set and getting comfortable with those rhythms of starting your days at odd hours. And yeah, for me, it's a film is made in prep, and then you execute it, and then you remake it again in post if you need to. But I find that a lot of the anxiety I have is in prepping, because if you can prep the film correctly, you should be able to let it flow. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It works. Thank you.
Yeah, and to Molly's point, like I kind of feel like, you know, making a film is like a roller coaster ride, right? So development, you're waiting in line, you're like, is this thing gonna go? Is this thing gonna go? Then pre-production, you're on the coaster, you're going up the hill. That's where all the anxiety is, right? But then once you go over that peak at the top, the track is there, and you just kind of got to react to what's happening. You don't even have time to really stress, because it's like this thing's going, you know, to the end. Like I just got to make sure that I'm reacting to everything that's getting thrown at me, whether you're the director or the producer. So it's you just kind of have to let go at a certain point and roll with the punches.
Yeah, and can I just throw in also, I just think if you give away, if you let go of the idea of perfection, and that your perfection, every single take is different, and that is a joy, like finding different options, finding different takes, everything. Like the more we let go of perfection and this idea of something that ultimately is unattainable, the more comfort you are in where you're at. That's kind of
Can
my
I
take
say
on that.
there was a film that I just shot last year. There's this beach scene, and we're supposed to go to the beach, and it's supposed to be this gorgeous beach, and we're in Malibu. It was like this huge thing that I had to fight for, and we get there, and for no reason, this cloud just rolls in, and it is the grayest day you have ever seen on this beach, and that is and it was like raining out and all the rest of it. And I remember being like, I was so bummed. Do we come back another day? I don't know. And we shot the scene, and I went back and I cut it together. And I was always like, oh, maybe I'll go get a pickup or something like that. And then I remember the first time that I screened the film, I had 3 people say, oh my God, that gray beach was absolutely the perfect choice. How did you get that? And I was like, all right, I'll just shut up. Like, sometimes the world gives you what you need,
Right.
even if you don't know you need it. And you just got to kind of roll with it.
I love it.
And now I look at it and I'm like, I can't imagine it another way. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah, some of the best
Yeah.
parts of work like come from these weird serendipitous moments, like whether it's like an actor's choice that was very different from what you picture in your head, or a prop that was made, or a location. I mean, you have the plan, but you always to fall back on, but you always got to be open to whatever may come your way and adjusting. And again, those are like we learned in the Scream movie night that we had. There was those lines that you had, Matt, like at the end with the phone, like you thought that was a dead take, so you just kind of riffed, and now that's one of the most famous lines from the movie.
But that's funny. Yeah. Anyways, George, thanks for your question, man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, cheers, bub.
All right, I'm gonna bring up Stewmacher next.
It's just a bunch of scream. It's just all scream.
That's fine if they like that. That's their gateway in, asking film questions. Though. How's it going, Stu?
Hi. Oh,
Hey,
I did not know I'd actually be able to get on here.
Do you have a question?
I just wanted to ask how everybody's days were.
Oh,
Day
yeah,
is great.
It's great. Yeah, I can't complain. We're here with all you guys.
Yeah. And thank you for being here. You're here a lot, so I just want to say thank you for being in the community and hanging out. And I see you active in the chat, and I think it's awesome. So thanks, man.
You're welcome. Yesterday I was in the live on Twitter while I was at tutoring.
Oh, nice. Did you enjoy it? Did we do a good job?
Everything.
Did we do
Awesome.
all right?
Yeah. I hope you guys have a great day.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Have a good
thanks
day
for coming
too.
up.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, Ghostface.
All right, bringing on Ghostface.
Hello.
Hey,
How's
what's
it
up,
going?
man?
Hey, I'm alright. How are you?
Good, mate.
Very good.
I'd just like to say thank you for getting me on. I didn't think I'd be in this, so I'm very grateful for you allowing me to talk.
Yeah,
Oh,
glad to
thanks
have
for
you.
being
Thanks
here.
for raising
Yeah.
So I've got a question. So with the obviously acting and movie industry, like what like really brought you into it? Like what made you from like a young age like say yes, this is what I want to do for like the rest of my life? Like was it like what attracted you to it? Like this is like a question that I've always wanted to ask because like I wanted to be an actor when I was younger, but I just never really had it in. You know what I mean?
The opportunity, yeah. I mean, look,
Yeah.
for me, in eighth grade, I found something that I was good at, and I sucked at everything else. And I just think that a time in my life when somebody said, "Hey, you're good at that," when I really needed to be acknowledged, I was lost. I was a
Yeah.
obese teenager. I had a severe learning disability, and I was really at my wit's end in terms of figuring out who I was. And then along came something that I was finally better at than everyone around me. Not that I was great, but I was something I was in a moment felt secure in. And so I
Yeah.
just kept going. Like, and when in high school, like nobody said stop. And at every sort of step along the way, like nobody's saying, you shouldn't do that anymore. And so at some point I realized, oh, this is what I'm gonna do for my whole life. And for me, look, I got lucky to find my way into Hollywood.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't doing movies or TV or whatever, I would for sure still be an actor. I'd be either
Mm.
at a Renaissance fair in, somewhere in the United States, or I'd be doing Bye Bye Birdie out in Glendale. I mean, I would still be doing what I'm doing now. I just got lucky enough to find this industry and find some success.
Yeah, I was like, it was something I always wanted to do from when I was younger, but like there was things getting in the way, so I never really
Sure.
to got what I wanted to do. But I'm just in awe of like what many actors are doing to this day, like especially you as well, because the Scream movies are some of my favorites, and you were absolutely fantastic in that movie.
Thank
So I
you.
want to say thank you for obviously starting off the Scream franchise.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, but I'm lucky to be a part of it, and that's all it was. It wasn't like, listen, if the soap opera had come the day before, I'd be doing a soap opera. It just happened to get this job in between auditioning for like two other jobs. So I'm lucky I got it, and I'm lucky, it's act of the gods that this movie is still relevant. So
Yeah, it's I went to watch the new one the other day, and I really really wish you showed up in it like somehow because of all these theories that your character's still alive, and I was thinking, oh god, he's not in it.
yeah, sorry, I
But
would love to be in it. I just took a TV. It shouldn't be that. It
yeah,
wouldn't
I'm
be that
sure you
way.
could somehow survive.
Yeah, this 4th of July, I'm gonna throw a TV on my face and show the world I can survive.
Yeah, I might have to do the same. It might be a good experiment. And
Oh
Uh,
no, you're
I'd
gonna
also
start a
like
new
to say
internet
before,
challenge.
I'd also like to say as well with this community and everything, I've only just joined today, but I'm really liking the look of what's going on here, and I'm really
oh, thanks,
interested
mate.
to see how this develops as well.
Oh, thank
Cheers.
you.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
glad to have
much.
you
Yeah,
You're
here.
yeah.
welcome because you're all doing a great job, and I just want to say that. So hopefully, you can keep going with this because it's a really really good project.
Oh, thanks, man. We
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks.
that. Yeah,
Oh, you're
Yeah,
thanks for
very
being
appreciate
here.
it.
welcome.
Awesome.
Cool.
So yeah,
Cheers,
shall
man.
we do you want me to leave so you can get more people on?
Yeah, yeah, I'm
That'd be
gonna bring up
great. Thanks,
Nemo.
brother.
Yeah. All right, bringing Nemo up.
That was so nice.
That
Yeah,
was so
our
nice.
people are great.
So
We have the
nice
best.
for a ghost
We have the
face.
best members.
I like how you're ghost faced. It's so sweet.
Hey, Nemo.
Hey, what's up, Nemo?
And you know,
Greetings. First of all, I
Uh-oh.
Oh, you cut out. Nemo,
uh-oh.
you there? Having some
Nemo,
mic
come back.
issues. Will somebody find
Very
Nemo?
well, Nemo.
Somebody find Nemo. Where'd he go?
Go with God.
Oh.
All right, we'll let you figure out your
Uh-oh.
mic stuff. I'll bring someone else up, and then when you,
Nemo, get back in line. We want to hear the
yeah, we want to
joke.
hear. It. All right.
Cereal, my leaves. Talk about an OG. Cereal had never been in Molly. Cereal had never been in NFT space, and now she's like a boss. Like 10
Yeah.
days in, it's hard to
Nice.
find a day that she's not there. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a new name too. She usually goes by Serial Mommy, but
Now it's
yeah,
my
she's
lead.
changing it up today.
Matt renamed me the other day because I said that I play a game. I play a game and they call it every time it comes up with a notification. It says my liege, blah blah blah. Your troops have returned or whatever. And I was like, I think I like it too much, and that should be your name. So I figured
Perfect.
spice it up a little. So,
Yeah, I love it.
Molly, this is for you. Do you find? Sorry, my dogs are going ballistic.
No
They're
worries.
big
Mine were
fans.
earlier. I hope they didn't interrupt anything.
Do you find that in a predominantly male-dominated industry that your films are more looked at more critically than your male peers? Like you're judged more harshly because you're female?
That is interesting. I deal with it more on the sales side of it because people like don't want to give you money, or you can look at it the amount of money. Like it's one of the very frustrating things is you look at the amount of money that female directors are given to male directors, and it's like a third of it, and then it's like, oh, their film isn't as good. And I'm like, well, maybe give them the amount of money that you gave the other directors, and then they could actually execute on that level. Anybody think of that? But um it's hard for me to say because I'm always so like personally invested in the creative and what's going on, so I don't know if they would be judged differently. I do think that there is, like I was saying, an expectation on female directors of having to succeed and having to be amazing. And one of the things is I'd love to see more like shit films by female directors, because I've seen lots of shit films by male directors, and I just want the playing field to be completely even of good and bad, and just not have to have the expectation of being amazing every single time. But I would like to see women being given much bigger budgets, because I think that if we actually even the playing field there too, you'd be able to see women accomplishing on the same levels, where I think sometimes the things that I'm seeing with female filmmakers is just restriction of literally the amount of days and what they're able to do. And I don't know if they're judged differently. Maybe because I don't pay attention to how people are judging it, because I'm just more about the making it. That's a bad answer, huh?
Actually, it's not. It makes a lot of sense, and the funding makes a lot of sense because it goes into wage gap and all that good stuff. It basically just it makes a lot of sense that you put it that way, and it's nice of you to actually get that out there, that it is a very real thing. And then I had another question for you. I think I just spaced it.
No.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just as you try to figure out what that question was, the idea of money, right? The great thing about money is that money buys you time and resources. So when you have a low budget film and you're trying to complete a movie in 10 days versus completing a movie in 6 weeks, you can imagine that kind of time gives you, better opportunity to set up beautiful shots, more coverage, more opportunity to work with actors, more takes. You just get. You can collect more information to cut a better film.
Yeah.
It's just interesting, and better
it is
props and side
extremely
effects and all
interesting.
that.
And then I did remember my other question. My other question is the being that you are Danny Elfman's daughter, do you find that people tend to look at you based on that?
I think they thought that. Oh, my fire alarm is going off. That's fun. I think I used to think that they did. Oh, guys, hold on 1 second.
All right.
Man down, get out of the house!
You see,
Get out of the house!
I saw somewhere they were they were saying that they needed to make a snooze button for your fire alarm for when you're cooking.
That's
So that when you're cooking, you could just like hit the snooze button.
like I got it.
like
At some point
I
last
know.
week,
I'm learning.
I had like 4 fire alarms in my
Thank you,
house,
guys.
were like out and like in a drawer. I was like, I have to put those back up. You're back. Are you safe? Are you safe?
Yes, I am absolutely safe. I'm outside, and I'm just going to let that keep going inside. Everybody's fine. Don't worry. The dogs are also barking. I'm so sorry. Cyril, what was your question?
Just whether or not you find that you're looked at based on the fact that you're Danny Elfman's daughter, or do people actually just be like, "Oh, are you part of that family?"
Honestly, I think at this point, the people that I'm working with either don't. I think it matters sometimes, because sometimes I'm guessing what happens is that people are more willing maybe to hear my pitch, but if the pitch isn't good enough, they'll say no to me just as easily. And I think it was more of an issue when I was first getting going, but honestly, I don't find that it comes up that often at this point. It does come up when I'm working with composers a lot. And that's mainly because I know how to speak composer, because I've been manipulating my dad like his whole life. So you can like, I know how to like manipulate a composer, I guess. But yeah, I don't know, honestly.
That's hilarious. Serial,
Well,
thank
I
you
mean,
for
I
your
appreciate
questions.
your
Yeah.
answers.
Well, we appreciate you in the chat, sir. You have been awesome, and we love having you. We
Yeah,
talked a
thank you,
lot.
Matt, and Bill, for making this happen. It's been amazing. I'm actually really digging this, and it's pushing me towards my dream in life more than I thought it would. So I
Nice.
really appreciate you
yeah,
guys.
Nice.
that's
Huzzah.
awesome. Well done, guys.
Hey, we gotta get go. I have to get going, and we should probably cap this close to an hour.
Yeah.
Nemo is back in the chat. Why don't we take Nemo's question and
Yo,
then
again, Nemo, for sure.
Am I living?
we got you. We got you loud and clear.
You resurrected me. So first of all, thanks. That's
Yeah.
pretty. I'm not like technically inept as much as it seems. I wanted to throw out a hack the planet.
Hack the planet, baby.
Gotta fucking hack the planet.
I believe.
So this is a question really for everybody. I'm a horror nut. I grew up doing technical theater, all that. So when it comes to like production, I'm wondering, what do all three of you guys like look for in a horror film? Like, do you have particular horror films that are your favorite? I feel like that always tells people a lot about people.
Oh, good question.
I know.
Well, I always like to divide it up in between horror films and horror movies. So to me, horror films are like cinematic, like, you know, like Jaws, Shining, Exorcist. Like those feel like cinematic films to me. And then horror movies would be, you know, stuff like Fright Night and, you know, the kind of like the fun 80s movies, Night of the Creeps. So yeah, I subdivide them. I sort of subdivide them. So it's like, is it one that's going to be like actually scary and well crafted, or is it one that's just like for fun and really enjoyable? So those are some of, I guess my
well, which ones are they? So what are your favorites?
Listed. I mean, in terms of scary films, I would say, obviously Exorcist probably is one of the scariest films. Jaws is one of my favorites. You know, Shining is also, I just love watching that movie. And then, in terms of movies, maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, Night of the Creeps, like all like the classic stuff. Yeah.
Bill, I'm not in any of those movies. Like, what's the deal?
I know. I mean,
it's just kind of a dick move in front of everyone.
I mean, I'm trying to.
The dork's here, bro. The dork's here, and you just did it to me.
He said, I mean, I'm trying to make this not a Lillard fan club.
Well,
you know,
it's interesting.
We can take this to the Lillard chat if you want. I've told you a million times you're one of the reasons I got into this damn industry. Watching your movies. You know it.
Molly, what's yours?
Yeah, Molly, what are your...
Ooh, I mean, look, Poltergeist was definitely one of the first films that I saw that I was like, I love this, and the humor in there, the darkness. I still can't walk into a room with a TV if like with static. The Orphanage is probably one of my favorite. I love a good ghost story. Probably one of my favorite films. I'm trying to think. I mean, I already said Scream, and I feel like that's kind of like pandering at this point. I feel like you can't say that, but like,
feel free to. Everyone can say it. Feel free. That's why we created this community. I'm kidding.
The craftsmanship of that film is just like it. Like I said earlier, it's just it is very impressive. But yeah, probably Poltergeist and The Orphanage are going to be two of my favorites. I love.
And what
Poltergeist is one of them. Yeah, I forgot about. I always forget.
Great movie. Nemo, you said also like, what do you look for in a script? Is that what you said? What was the first part of the question? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just as someone who like grew up doing theater and like I filmed some stuff too. I feel like as people working in that industry as like, you know, creative artistic types, I think we all like generally gravitate towards maybe like a certain aspect. So I'm also curious like what it is about certain horror films maybe that for each of you is particularly inspiring. You know, there's so many kinds, so many genres.
Molly, you were saying earlier just things that you haven't seen before, right?
Yeah, I just want to, and that can be even a story that has been seen, but from a different perspective, and a perspective that feels real and true and authentic, and that I never realized. Like that's also one of my favorite things to experience. But it is just being innovative. It is going out there. I mean, that's Get Out, for instance, why we all love that. It's not that it's a completely innovative film, but it was such the perspective on that film was like, yes, we need this. We need more of this. And it was just so exciting to see somebody kind of actually doing that. And then what was wonderful is that there's many films that get to follow in its footsteps after that. But it's just, yeah, it's a new story and or a new perspective on stories that resonates with what's going on in the world.
What about you, Bill? What do you look for? Like, what turns you on?
For me, I like movies that actually scare me. Like, that's a big thing, because I just, anyone that knows me knows I love, jumping out, scaring my friends, like doing like pranks, stuff like that. So watching a movie that actually puts me on edge is something I really enjoy. But then I also like films with a lot of social commentary, where they're like sliding in stuff in there. Because I remember when I first learned that like Dawn of the Dead was this whole metaphor for consumerism, and that's why it was shot in a mall, and like all this stuff. I was like, it like blew my mind. I'm like, wait, there's other levels to this. It's not just zombies eating people and trying to survive. Like, so yeah, anytime that a movie is like saying something without directly saying it to me is, I think, pretty fascinating, and peeling those layers of the onion back is really, really fun to do.
Yeah,
it's also like people eating each other.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is that and.
The way that you, as a writer, Bill, the way that you're like always trying to tell a personal story with like a personal theme incorporated in the horror movie genre, I think is awesome. Bill's a great writer. Yeah, Bill's a great writer.
Yeah,
and Bill,
thank you.
We go right into directing a movie as soon as we mint. So I'm excited about that. And
yeah, I can't wait.
It's gonna be super
I
fun.
can't wait for Bill to finally make his feature, because I've been waiting for this for a very long time. As somebody who makes several short films and be supportive of so many filmmakers, including me, I cannot wait for this. I think you're I mean, not to set the expectation too high, but it's like you've been ready for this for the past decade. So I'm very excited that this is going to happen.
I'm very excited. And again, like we talked about plans before, like never did I expect, this route to be the route. Like never did I think I'd be here, with Matthew Lillard running like an NFT project that we're trying to like change the way like independent films are being financed. Like you just got to roll with the punches and always be thinking ahead and how you can do something different than other people.
Yeah.
It's really brilliant. Like I gotta say, like I think the whole approach is exciting. I mean, I listen in on these. Everybody's really jazzed about it. I'm jazzed about it. I'm going to be one of those who like thanks you guys too, because I think it's like the community aspect of it makes it 10 times more exciting than just having something delivered to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the thing with Kickstarter, is it's great that people could get involved, but they were able to just give money and then get a T-shirt and see their name on screen, but they weren't really, really involved. So like the fact that we're bringing people in and letting anybody have a say in a film and then get to watch that film is just going to be an incredible journey that we're about to go on.
And build people up that sort of like you're a storyteller, you're in theater, you are gravitate towards this stuff. And, people that love film, people love talking about filmmaking, and then creating opportunities for people to grow as potential filmmakers or writers or directors or producers. Like the idea of Night School to me is one of the most exciting utilities that we're bringing. Not only are we going to make movies, right? That's great, but we're also going to put people together and give people the opportunity. Like I always say that agents never take writers, directors, and producers and actors and put them in the same room, because we'll go off and produce things without the agencies, right? Like if you smash creatives together, they'll take over the world. And so our whole thing is like, we're a big incubation for like the creative world and smashing people together to create things. So anyways, thank you for your question. Yeah. Thank you, Nemo, for your question. We got it. Yeah. Oh, my favorite movie, by the way, is Let the Right One In.
Good one.
It's so good. I try to show it to my kids, and they're like, "Yeah, it's stupid." I'm like, "No, it's so good.
No, it's amazing.
It's so
it's just because you showed it to them. Nobody else show it to them.
There's no doubt. In 20 years, it'll be like, "Let the Right One In is my favorite movie." Anyways, Nemo, thanks for jumping up.
Yeah, be well, brother.
Everyone, we appreciate you. Look, the biggest thing you guys can. I'm gonna say goodbye to the community, then Bill, you can say goodbye to Molly. But I just want to say on behalf of everyone, our community's grown by 3,000 and some odd people in the last 48 hours. We are super grateful for everyone going out and spreading the word, bringing people in, educating people is what we're doing. We're not just a normal NFT. We're trying to build something really extraordinary and change the way movies are made. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for supporting us. Molly, you're our first Fireside Chat, and I couldn't I couldn't be more grateful for you coming in. You were incredible. But Bill,
Yes,
you
thank you. Thank you so much, Mali. Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys all for being here. This is incredible just to see all the faces in the crowd. All the vamps are here. We got,
Vamps,
Alpha Girls in the crowd. Yeah, very excited just to be bringing all these communities together for events like this. For those of you that did attend, really quick, we're trying to, iron things out with the whole POAP thing. So we're trying this one with the secret code. So I think you download the app and then the code will be Elfman, Mali's last name with a capital E. So that's how you can claim your free POAP NFT.
What's the app?
Am
'Cause
I
I don't know what the app
NFT
is.
now?
The app is just POAP, POAP, I think. They're really slow getting back to me, so I was like, great, you got me the code. Where do they enter it? And I still haven't heard back. So hopefully we'll get a response from them. But I believe you download their app, and then it'll have you put it in like your wallet address, and it'll send it to you. So
Awesome.
yeah, we can talk about it more in the chat as well. And yeah, Molly, you probably have to go, but if you're around and you want to hop in the chat and answer other questions that people, because we still have a couple people, but if you have to go do stuff, I know you have meetings coming up for the rest of the day. So
I'm gonna go set my middle child up for Hamlet.
Okay, yeah.
Good luck with Hamlet.
Good luck, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was great. And yeah, I'm just so excited. Filmmaking is so hard. So finding a new way of going about it, that's what's going to make it work. So I'm really excited by this.
It's going to be interesting. Yeah, for sure. And then again, thank you for being in early. Thank you for helping us as we grow and coming on and spending time with our community.
Yeah, you're incredible.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Really nice to meet you all.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, everyone have a great day.
Everyone.
Bye.